So who do you identify as your ideological or strategic partners within the online left? That is content creators, either ones you know personally or do not, or perhaps ideological communities who you feel you're allied with.
Well, there are plenty of people who push in the same direction as me. Interpersonally, I get along with very few people for a variety of reasons. I always feel bad answering questions like these because I have a terrible memory and I'm afflicted by recency bias. When I think of people who I get along with, my two thoughts are Xander Hall and Demon Mama because both of them showed up in my chat this stream. I have a really bad memory. There are a lot of people who I get along with, at least relative to what I'm capable of remembering at any point in time. When asked on the spot, I'll just refer to the last people that I talked to. There are plenty of people who I'm not directly friends with, though, who, push in the same direction, especially because I think the most important direction to push in right now is anti-fascism, which means that more and more so, like my talking points, it feels, are getting more popular within the liberal left. Of course, that's not them pulling from me. I just mean that if the broader position is one of anti-fascism, this is something that, a greater number of people can agree upon than if it were radical gender politics or communism or whatever.
Mm. So then, would you be able to identify a certain ideological community or sub-community within the online left that you might feel aligned with in terms of your anti-fascist goals or in terms of your kind of radicalization, bringing people more left? Either people who are doing the same thing and pursuing the same goals, or who are part of one of those processes. For example, liberals, anarchists, Marxists, Leninists, so forth.
Well, definitely not Marxist-Leninists. That's for sure.
That's the next question.
Most of anarchist Twitter is fine, but anarchists are very culturally weak, with no exposure, basically. If people were to accept me as an anarchist, which is not the easiest pill for some people to swallow, I think, then I would be the largest anarchist content creator. Possibly in the English-speaking world, possibly in the world. The anarchists just aren't very numerous, I think.
Mm.
Outside of that, I mean, Breadtube is fine. I try to think of the internet less and less as a kind of set of communities because I don't think that's worked out very well for Breadtube. We still don't really have a collectively agreed upon term for the online left space. Breadtube doesn't seem very applicable anymore because, Sean and Contra don't really make videos that much, certainly not Contra. Lindsay Ellis left YouTube. H-Bomb makes videos on the Minecraft Roblox oof noise. A philosophy tube still kicking, Abigail's still kicking, but even then, it feels like everyone's kind of there's more value, I think, in thinking of people's individual spaces and then kind of like collective adjacent bubbles of shared interest. In terms of anti-fascism, pretty much everyone left of center is going to be on board with this. I think even most boilerplate MSNBC liberals are on board with referring to the GOP as fascist these days. So it's very nice to see that messaging spread. I wish it would spread more and faster, but you know, we try to get what we can.
So then, actually, with that point you made on Breadtube, when you say Breadtube, what do you mean? How are you defining it?
Well, that's the problem. Nobody knows. Look, functionally, when people said Breadtube, I think they referred to a collection of maybe a dozen YouTubers who make
Mm.
video essays about being gay or about being trans or whatever. And that's Breadtube. Of course, the reason that term kicked off to begin with is because it was meant to idealize a sort of YouTube culture pushback from what was previously a very right-wing space. Back in 2017, when the major breadtubers really started posting and growing, it was the first time we'd seen a pushback against what was previously like a Gamergate-infested shit hell hub. But since then, the term has lost a lot of meaning. I find
Mhm.
functionally the most prominent left-leaning content creators aren't people who talk politics exclusively. They are people who will talk about culture issues, pop culture stuff, human interest topics, with a left-leaning spin. I always use this guy as an example, Curtis Connor. He's a TikToker, YouTuber, huge content creator, progressive bent to his videos, but he doesn't exclusively talk politics. In fact, he doesn't really talk politics, not directly. He won't talk about feminism. He'll talk about weird guys on TikTok being kind of weird about women, He won't talk about like the incel movement. He'll talk about, what is with people in this dating advice. It's a way of delivering the idea, the message, without alienating people by directly codifying your politics. I think that's a very smart way of getting people introduced to your ideology. It's not on the table for me, of course. I'm very explicit and I'll never change in that respect, but I'm glad other people are doing it. It's good. It's diversity of tactics.
So then, okay, do you believe that Breadtube is then serves a purpose of introduction to the left through discussion of social issues?
At this
Or
point,
is it
I don't think it serves any purpose, the term. I think it's
okay?
purely vestigial.
Okay. And I imagine you now, this is a funny little fact, you are included in the Wikipedia page for Breadtube.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because I had the least in common with the rest of the people there. I'm a left-leaning content creator, sure, but a lot of what defined Breadtube, as opposed to the much broader and much less used LeftTube, was the whole video essay, queer, soft child, post-Tumblr aesthetic, which I don't have, I mean, I have colored lighting behind me, but apart from that, I don't really hit any of those points, I guess, except for being left-leaning. I don't mind being included in the block because I think it's kind of funny to see people argue over my inclusion. If it's worth anything, the moderators over on the Breadtube subreddit have long since banned my videos from being posted there because it caused too much fighting. So whatever that might mean, taxonomically, there you go.
They use not amazing picture of you either on Wikipedia.
Wait, the Wikipedia picture of me looks fantastic. Are you kidding me? Where I'm in the tank top?
I've said too much.
I chose that picture myself. The Wikipedia editor emailed me and they were like, "Hey, do you have a nice picture of yourself to use?" Which of course I don't. So I just went to a recent stream VOD and screenshotted this so the chat wasn't visible and gave them that.
Nice. Yes.
Sun's out, guns out. Also, you can just tell looking at this image that I really just don't aesthetically fit in with the Breadtube label at all.
So it's conscious then.
Well, I'm not that. I'm not a soft boy. I'm not a trans chick. I mean, I have bi lighting behind me, I guess, though it's more blue than pink. But no, it's just I'm just too edgy for the crowd. The thing that really bothers me, I'll use an example. I'll call someone out directly, someone who doesn't even like me. So it's drama, okay? Abigail Thorne, Philosophy Tube videos, are they good? Yes. Kill James Bond podcast, is it good? Yes, I've watched every episode. But yeah. Abigail Thorne, soft girl, doesn't seem to like me, whatever you do, beloved by a lot of Breadtubers, whatever. Edgy girl in her podcasts. And they'll be edgier during the Patreon-only episodes, which, because I like the podcast, I've seen. And when I listen to that, like all these leftists who are in with the more sensitive Breadtube community, but are still edgy on their own time, I think, with respect, you motherfuckers, what the fuck? What? Okay, yeah, I know you're all like that. I'm like that too. Don't get mad at me for doing, what the fuck? This has happened to multiple people in the Breadtube space. And, I know things that not everyone knows because, I'm a larger content creator, so I hear this or that. But the whole, being lightly edgy, irreverent, you cannot survive being a leftist on YouTube without having a dark heart of comedy. Contra's edgy. I swear to God. I don't know if it's because I'm a guy or because I'm less tactful than they are, which I am, to be fair. But at the end of the day, humans are irreverent and edgy. And I don't know. I think lefties may have shot themselves in the foot a little bit by kind of sanitizing their public facing content of that. Because it makes them seem a little bit inhuman. Like here's an example, right? I'll say this. It is a human thing to see hot people in public and think in your head "Zooey mama." That's what you think in your head, That's not Now, aesthetically, looking at a hot person and staring at them for a second, this is a culturally associated behavior, and we associate it with lecherous men. That's what we think of. When you think of a hot person is being stared at in public for just a sec, not leering for a minute or whatever, but briefly, oh wow, they're hot, This is something we associate with lecherous men. In reality, literally everyone does this. Straight or gay, men or women. If you are capable of visually appreciating how humans look, then you will do this. And if you, in the same way, like, I think it's very normal and very human for people to have kind of like that attitude when they talk about things, especially off the cuff or when they're being comedic, an acknowledgement of interest in others, a casual recognition of your ability to appreciate attractive people. It's just a normal human thing, you know? And there are ways to do that without being creepy. I think people do it all the time. I think it's very normal to do that without being creepy. But have you ever gotten a feeling when watching a content creator that there's a degree of sexlessness that doesn't feel authentic, but rather feels like an imposed and like strictly regulated imposition as a way of not trying to come off that way? I might be being a bit vague here. Have you ever gotten a feeling, it's kind of like the faking being nice thing you might pick up from some people, or sometimes people will accuse male feminists of faking being nice to women when in reality in their head they're doing it for the nice guy points. Have you ever, you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yes, I believe it depends though,
It
because
depends
honestly,
hugely, massively so, and it's super, super subjective too. A lot of people might
you-
disagree on where like the line is. The only point I'm trying to get, and I'll wrap this up because I'm rambling. The only point I'm trying to get is that little idiosyncrasies, little bits of human behavior that indicate our flaws or our interests, they're human, and that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons that I don't like purity testing tendencies in the online left, because sometimes I get the feeling that people are trying so hard to be like, very straight laced, like perfectly unproblematic at all times, that not only is it inauthentic, but it's setting a standard no one else can meet, and therefore laying the groundwork for like interminable critique and infighting. Does that make any sense?
yes, I hear you.
Okay. Sorry for rambling, but yeah, that's. I just wish we could all be a bit more forthcoming about the fact that we're trying our best, but there doesn't need to be that standard because nobody can meet it anyway.